Hello, my name is Destiny, and welcome to my channel, Destined by Design for You. Today, we will be continuing our series called When in Babylon, and this will be part 2 of Jesus in Exile, where we're looking at how Jesus modeled for us how we can live as citizens of the kingdom of God while we are here on earth. Previously, we looked at how Jesus knew even from a young age that he must be about his Father's business, and how even though he knew he must be about his Father's business, it wasn't until it was God's timing that Jesus began his public ministry. And what we find is that Jesus is being led by the Spirit. And Jesus does what God has him to do, whether it ends him followers or enemies. Today we're going to pick up in John chapter 4, looking at verses 39 through 42. And many of the Samaritans of that city believed on him for the saying of the woman, which testified, "He told me all that I ever did." So when the Samaritans were come unto him, they besought him that he would tarry with them. And he abode there 2 days. And many more believed because of his own word, and said unto the woman, Now we believe, not because of thy saying, for we have heard him ourselves, and know that this is indeed the Christ, the Savior of the world. This is controversial because, number one, Jesus came to a Samaritan woman and asked the Samaritan woman for a drink. Samaritans at this time were not well respected by the Jews and were typically avoided and disdained by the Jews. But here Jesus comes to the Samaritan woman, and after he's talked with her, she believes and she goes and testifies to the city, and they come running. And what we find is after they hear him themselves, they believe, which is a very stark contrast to what we see with the Jews. There Jesus is teaching, doing miracles, and here and there he gains some followers, but he's also gaining enemies. While in Samaria, his fame and acceptance as Messiah seems almost instant. This most likely would not win him any more favor with the Jews. And if Jesus was trying to win a popularity contest, it wouldn't have made sense. But Jesus was showing that God had sent him unto the world, and he was going about doing what God led him to do, whether it was what people would consider popular or not. Now let's continue in Luke 5, verses 12 through 16. And it came to pass, when he was in a certain city, behold, a man full of leprosy, who, seeing Jesus, fell on his face, and besought him, saying, Lord, if thou wilt, thou canst make me clean. And he put forth his hand, and touched him, saying, I will, be thou clean. And immediately the leprosy departed from him. And he charged him to tell no man, but go and show thyself to the priest, and offer for thy cleansing, according as Moses commanded, for a testimony unto them. But so much the more went there a fame abroad of him, and great multitudes came together to hear, and to be healed by him of their infirmities. And he withdrew himself into the wilderness, and prayed. What we see here is Jesus is healing people. But in this instance, and in many other instances, he tells them not to tell anyone what he has done. But as usually happens, either the person who is healed or someone else testifies of what Jesus is doing. So even when Jesus would tell them not to testify of what he had done, oftentimes they would testify anyway. And many times this won Jesus more followers, more believers. But other times it gained him more critics. You'll go with us to Luke, now looking at chapter 5, verses 17 through 26. It says, And it came to pass on a certain day, as he was teaching, that there were Pharisees and doctors of the law sitting by, which were come out of every town of Galilee and Judea and Jerusalem. And the power of the Lord was present to heal them. And behold, men brought in a bed a man which was taken with palsy. And they sought means to bring him in, and to lay him before him. And when they could not find by what way they might bring him in because of the multitude, they went upon the housetop, and let him down through the tiling with his couch into the midst before Jesus. And when he saw their faith, he said unto him, Man, thy sins are forgiven thee. And the scribes and the Pharisees began to reason, saying, Who is this which speaketh blasphemies? Who can forgive sins but God alone? But when Jesus perceived their thoughts, he answering said unto them, What reason ye in your hearts? Whether it is easier to say, Thy sins be forgiven thee, or to say, Rise up and walk? But that ye may know that the Son of Man hath power upon earth to forgive sins. He said unto the sick of the palsy, I say unto thee, Arise, and take up thy couch, and go into thine house. And immediately he rose up before them, and took up that whereupon he lay, and departed to his own house, glorifying God. And they were all amazed, and they glorified God, and they were filled with fear, saying, We have seen strange things today. So as we see, Jesus was followed not only by followers, not only by the curious, not only by those seeking healing, but he was also followed by his critics. Time and time again, there's always someone in the crowd questioning what he's doing. In this case, instead of saying be healed, he told the man he was forgiven. And this enraged the Pharisees and the scribes, because who but God could forgive? They were not ready or willing to accept that Jesus was the Son of God and that he had power to forgive sins. So though they were seeing these miracles and these great things, and they could not deny that he was doing these miracles, we find that Pharisees, scribes, Sadducees, and many others did not believe. As we continue in Luke 5, looking at verses 30 and 31, it says, But their scribes and Pharisees murmured against his disciples, saying, Why do ye eat and drink with publicans and sinners? And Jesus answering said unto them, They that are whole need not a physician, but they that are sick. They criticized everything Jesus did, even the company he kept. It did not make sense to them that he would eat with sinners and publicans, when Jesus made it clear that he came to save the lost. He came to heal the sick. He came to those who needed him and would believe on him. And then we see in John 5, verses 1 through 18, it says, After this there was a feast of the Jews, and Jesus went up to Jerusalem. Now there is at Jerusalem by the sheep market a pool, which is called in the Hebrew tongue Bethesda, having 5 porches. In these lay a great multitude of impotent folk, of blind, halt, withered, waiting for the moving of the water. For an angel went down at a certain season into the pool and troubled the water. Whoever then first, after the troubling of the water, stepped in, was made whole of whatsoever disease he had. And a certain man was there, which had an infirmity 38 years. When Jesus saw him lie, and knew that he had been now a long time in that case, he said unto him, Wilt thou be made whole? The impotent man answered him, Sir, I have no man, when the water is troubled, to put me into the pool. But while I'm coming, another steppeth down before me. Jesus saith unto him, Rise, take up thy bed, and walk. And immediately the man was made whole, and took up his bed, and walked. And on the same day was the Sabbath. The Jews therefore said unto him that was cured, It is the Sabbath day. It is not lawful for thee to carry thy bed. He answered them, He that made me whole, the same said unto me, Take up thy bed and walk. And they asked him, What man is that which saith unto thee, Take up thy bed and walk? And he said that he that was healed wist not who it was, for Jesus had conveyed himself away, a multitude being in that place. Afterward Jesus findeth him in the temple, and said unto him, Behold, thou art made whole. Sin no more, lest a worse thing come upon thee. The man departed and told the Jews that it was Jesus, which had made him whole. And therefore did the Jews persecute Jesus, and sought to slay him, because he had done these things on the Sabbath day. But Jesus answered them, My Father worketh hitherto, and I work. Therefore the Jews sought the more to kill him, because he not only had broken the Sabbath, but said that God was his Father, making himself equal with God. One of the biggest things that his critics had against him was that Jesus would heal on the Sabbath. And in their mindset, that was breaking the commandments and law of God. It was such a serious thing to them that they could not recognize the miracles Jesus did. And all the more when Jesus said that God was his Father, they hated him all the more. And we see that time and time again, like the saying, you can't see the forest for the trees. They couldn't recognize who Jesus was because he did not fit into the mold that they expected, and they would not receive him because they did not agree with what he did. So even though they saw these miracles, it was oftentimes they were harping on something that was small or something that might have been a misinterpretation on their part, rather than looking at everything Jesus did and believing on him. We see in Mark 3, verse 1 through 6, it says, And he entered again into the synagogue, and there was a man there which had a withered hand. And they watched him, whether he would heal him on the Sabbath day, that they might excuse him. And he saith unto the man which had the withered hand, Stand forth. And he said unto him, Is it lawful to do good on the Sabbath days, or to do evil, to save life, or to kill? But they held their peace. And when he had looked round about on them with anger, being grieved for the hardness of their hearts, he saith unto the man, Stretch forth thine hand. And he stretched it out, and his hand was restored whole as the other. And the Pharisees went forth, and straightway took counsel with the Herodians against him, how they might destroy him. They were trying to lay a trap. They wanted to see if Jesus would heal on the Sabbath. So instead of going there to hear him, instead of going there to listen to him, they were waiting to see if they could trap him by his words or his actions. And lo and behold, Jesus heals the man, but not before challenging them and asking, Is it lawful to do good on the Sabbath days, or to do evil, to save life, or to kill? Jesus gave them a challenge, and they were not able to answer him. They would not answer him, because by saying yes, then they were condoning his actions. By saying no, then they were going to be dealing with the people who believed on him. So they wouldn't answer him. And it says that Jesus was angered and grieved at the hardness of their hearts. So what we see is Jesus is not trying to do what will make him popular. He is not out to gain as many followers as he can. He is out to do the work God has given him. He is out to testify of the Lord and of what the Lord is doing. And he's going to do it in the way that he is led of by the Spirit, whether it is what man expects of him or not. And we see that Jesus is led by the Spirit time and time again. It gives him that wisdom and insight to know the heart of the people, and gives him the wisdom to respond to these people. So we see that Jesus walks in the will of God, again, whether it wins him followers or enemies, whether it builds his fame or discredits his fame, he remains faithful to God. And as we see, he is committed to doing what is right and doing what is good, even when it is controversial. And what we find is in Jesus' life, this brought him enemies, so much so to the point that they sought to kill him. After everything they had seen Jesus do, they still wanted to kill him. And we, as children of God, should expect no less. Even when we are serving God wholeheartedly, even when we are doing what the Lord has asked of us, it will win us friends, but it will also win us enemies. And oftentimes, there will be people who hate us for the very good that we do. And if it was so for Christ, so it will be for us. So we must not be surprised when people hate us for the good that we do and for proclaiming his name. But like Christ, we must not let the opinion or the hatred of others keep us from doing what God has called us to do. For now, we're going to end the message here, but I hope you will join me for part 3 of Jesus in Exile. Until then, keep serving the Lord with all your heart and loving others as Christ has loved you. Please remember to like, share, and subscribe so that this message can be spread and so that you will be notified when part 3 posts. Take care and keep glorifying God. Till next time. Thanks so much for watching. Don't forget to like and share to help spread the word, and hit that subscribe button to be notified the next time I post a video. God bless.